Good morning again. Hello. So we are here. Imagine this. This is the last Sunday in August. We had 5 of them this month, right? And so I understand that next Sunday we have the opportunity to go inside in Fuller Hall if we wish, or stay out here on this deck, on this patio. So we'll have to talk about that. But in any event, what we've been talking about all month is Wayne Dyer's book, Happiness is the Way. And our topic this morning is Cultivate Your Own Garden. And of course, we've been used to using the garden a lot as a metaphor in our lives. And what we plant and what we tend is what we reap and what we have in our lives. Well, in religious science, we have been taught that I'm going to give you like a little short brush up on our basics of religious science, because Ernest Holmes, when he wrote the textbook, gave us the metaphysical chart, and it's a circle, and it basically has the top portion, which is spirit. The second section is what we call law, or what we equate to soul or soil. It's your subconscious. And then the bottom layer, the bottom part of it is the effect or the result or the manifestation, the physical form. And so that's just a real quick synopsis of our metaphysical chart. Well, in the garden, so to speak, is the soil. That's the middle. That's where you plant things in the law, and it comes out. What you put in there, that's what gets established. And so many times, well, a lot of us will look at our lives and we'll think, I didn't put that there. How did that get there? How did that show up in my life? Well, somehow or another, it was there, usually subconsciously or unconsciously. And one of the main elements in our lives as human beings here on this earth plane is the fact that in that middle section, in that law, in that soil, is what we call race consciousness. And race consciousness comes about over the eons of time of people who have lived, prior to us, and their thoughts and their feelings, their energy, and it gets kind of downloaded automatically, into our DNA. We don't think we did it, but as being part of race consciousness, that is the case. It's there, mainly unknowingly. And things like dis-ease and death are there. And it's an acceptable sort of thought or pattern that, well, of course, everybody's going to get sick, everybody's going to die. That isn't necessarily the truth. And what we need to recognize is that we have to monitor, so to speak, our thoughts, our feelings, and know the truth for ourselves. You see, yes, honestly, at one point or another, all of us will lay down this earthly body, this earthly form, but that does not have anything to do with death. I was reading something earlier this week and was talking about the birthing process. And if any of you have ever birthed a baby or been around someone who has, or has been around a maternity ward, the very last stage of the birth process is called transition. And when you are in transition in the labor process, you recognize that this is probably the most difficult stage of birthing. But it's necessary, because in that transitional stage, in that transition stage, is what is crowning, what is giving the woman the opening to birth new life, to birth the baby. So recognize that even though we go through this change of life on the earth form, and you might be going through, let's talk about in a deeper metaphysical level here. You might be going through a transition right now. Yeah, you might not be laying down your body form, but perhaps on a mental level or on a spiritual level or something that is challenging you, you feel like you're in transition. You feel like, oh my gosh, everything's bombarding me right now at the moment. What I want to suggest is hang in there and know the truth of what you really are and bring that out from within as you maybe are challenged with some sort of transitional event at this coming time. I was, as I was thinking about this topic, the certain verses of the Bible came to me. And I wanted to share the first one that came to me. And I have two different versions of the Bible. I've got the King James Version and I've got the Lamsa Version. King James is, of course, more the traditional that most of us were raised with, I think. And the Lamsa Version is based on the Aramaic translation of the way that Jesus spoke back in his day. So Romans 8, verse 28 says, "And we know all things work together for good for those who love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." And my Lamsa version said, "And we know that those who love God are helped by him in everything for good." So the bottom line here is that if we love God, God provides us goodness. And it's interesting because on that one verse in the past, I have argued with it. And I've had people say the same thing. They want to change it. Everything works together for good, period. It doesn't say that. Everything works together for good for those who love God. And I love the Lamsa version too, is for those who love God, they are helped by him in everything good. So what does that say? We're supposed to love God. How do we love God? We love God by loving everything of God. What are the things of God? First of all, number one is you and me. This individual being that we are is God in expression. And the truth of our being is that we are love in expression, that we are joy, that we are peace, that we are compassion. And then, yes, we are united with all and everyone, and we see that. We see that wholeness. We see that oneness. And so we want to cultivate the love that we are in our garden. When we cultivate that love, regardless of what the effects are going on the outside, because the effects, the results, are just something that happened before. You see, that's like the end result. That's like past history. What we want to do is generate from this moment the future that is based on love, that is based on joy, something that we want to reap, that we want to harvest. I'm going to get a drink of water. The second verse that came to mind as I was thinking of this topic is from Job 3:25. The King James Version says, "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me." And the Lamsa Version is almost identical. "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of has befallen me." What that's saying to me is that where am I putting my faith? Am I afraid that something's going to happen? Well, we all know exactly what Job was talking about. Because when we put our faith in fear, the universe responds and says, "Hey, sure, that works for me. Let's do it." No judgment there. But being fearful isn't, to me, really fun. Does anybody like being fearful? Is that kind of, no, it's kind of a universal thing, isn't it? It's not fun to be fearful. That should give you the clue right here, right there. If it doesn't feel good, there's a reason for it. You don't want to go there. So we want to recognize if I'm in fear, that's not where I want to be, and I want to turn it around and look for something, I don't care what, to love, something to appreciate, something to lend my positive energy toward. And there's one more verse that I think fits here, that kind of joins the two of these together, and that is Matthew 29, chapter 9, verse 29. And what's leading up to it is the blind man is coming to Jesus, asking him if he would heal him, make it so that I can see. And Jesus asks the man, do you believe that I can do this? And the man says, yes, I believe that you can do it. And so Jesus touches the man's eyes, and he's able to see. And Jesus says, according to your faith, be it done unto you. The Lamsa version is almost identical again. Let it be unto you according to your faith. Do you see how much value and how important what we have faith in is giving us in our lives? When we know and absolutely know that we can choose love and joy and peace over distress, dis-ease, and all of the things that are an unreality of life, then we are living in this abundant flow of the universe. Now remember, today's topic is cultivate your garden. That means don't stick your nose in somebody else's garden. Let them plant what they want to plant. Let them tend it. You don't have to get in there and try to fix it. Because each of us is that individualized expression. They're going to do it differently than you. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that you have the whole, wherewithal on what's supposed to be planted and what's supposed to be right. It was interesting because I'm driving now to North Park 5 days a week to babysit my little granddaughter, and on the road, on the freeway. I first started, because it was the pandemic, everything was locked down, but I was essential because I'm an essential grandmother to take care of my granddaughter. So there was hardly any cars on the road, which was really nice. Well, that's not the case anymore. And so I'm driving, and it's interesting because, your brain is thinking, okay, I'm going to have to get off on the 805 coming up, so, I'm going to have to start going over whatever, it's changing lanes. And thank goodness, many times it occurs to me that as I'm driving, I think, oh yeah, I'm going to probably need to get over here. And then all of a sudden, somebody just goes, shoo, driving by me, and that I had no clue they were even there. And so it reminds me of that saying that how many of us have heard, stay in your own lane. And I have been ever so grateful. I don't know how many times that I have stayed in my own lane and not crossed over in an inappropriate time. And of course, when I cross over, I do look, I do check and so forth. But to stay in our own lane is so important, and not to get so concerned about what somebody else is doing. Let them live their life. Well, I guess I'm going to have to share one little thing because I did mention my granddaughter, and somebody asked me, what was new with her this week, and I think I may have shared it with some of you. But the one thing that comes to mind that I still am remembering time and again is she had me build her a little fort in the living room. You take the cushions off the couch, and then you put the little drape over the top of it, and it's not very big, maybe 3 feet square. And of course, she wants me down in there with her. So I'm crawling down in. Of course, my torso's in there, and my face, and she's right next to me, and she is moving around and bumping into me and changing her position and all this kind of stuff. And I said to her, I said, "You are just a wiggle worm." And she says, "I'm not a wiggle worm, I'm a toddler." You know, I mean, out of the mouths of babes. So, yeah, she's a wiggle worm toddler is what she is. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So I want us to be safe in our lanes that we are driving. Safe in our lanes, in our path of life. And I wanted to remind you of some of the words from the thought that I wrote in the thought for the week. Everything in the universe is exactly as it should be. The evidence is that it is. That's all. If you can change things, then do so, instead of getting mad at the world for the way it is or blaming the mirror for what it reflects. Accept it, and then do what you can do to improve it. So important. What that says to me is that our aim is to be happy in life, honestly. And to do that, we need to live in the current moment. We need to live in the now, because many, many, many times, if we are upset, if we have brought some sort of negativity to our thought and to our feeling and to our experience, we are living in the past, we are living in regret, or we're living in the future anticipating what could go wrong. Let's think about what could go right. Remember to think about where you are placing your faith. Is your faith in fear, or is your faith in love? In loving this God energy presence that is always, consistently, constantly, right here in full force, 1000% and more. And just for us to let go and release any consternation and accept that, yes, everything is perfectly right, just the way it is, right now. I don't have to do anything to make it right, because it is. We can just accept that. One of the ways that we can live in the current moment, live in the now, accept what is to forgive, to let go of things that maybe we did wrong, that we have regrets. Oh man, I wish if only I had blah blah. Or if somebody else did something that hurt us. Remember to let it go. You're not the same spiritual person, the same entity now as you were then, and neither are they. All of us are evolving and growing and releasing more of this inner personal being that we are. So just let it go. Think about where you are placing your faith. Is it in fear? You know when you're in fear. I know when I'm in fear. I hold my breath. So breathe. That'll help you live in the moment, in the now, and to accept the love that we are. Think about the best thing that can happen, not the worst. I'd like you to pull out your program if you would, and I want for all of us to say again the affirmation that's at the end of the thought for the week. Today, I am my own person. I let others be themselves, and I choose to look for solutions over problems. I plant seeds of love, letting go of outcomes and attachments. I choose to be happy. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Don't worry, be happy. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Don't worry, be happy. And so it is. Love you. Namaste.